Recording also, right?
Yes.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We have and welcome to this very vertical specific roundtable on challenges of procurement in the CPG sector. This roundtable has been brought to you by the by ISCM Forums and Procol. At the outset, I would like to try to thank Gaurav for partnering with ISCM Forums and bringing this roundtable. The idea behind the roundtable was to create a set of address vertical specific challenges. One of the things that we face as people who interact with multiple layers of sectors is that challenges to each sector are very different. And even with the panel as this, I think we will have the same diversity in terms of challenges that we are facing. Before we start, I would like to introduce you to the Institute of Supply Chain Management. The Institute of Supply Chain Management is an education, training, research, and consulting organization. We are based in Mumbai. We started our operations in 2009, but though in 2009 was a soft launch, and we finally got full-fledged operations in 2014 when the promoter, Dr. Rakesh Singh, gave up his career as a director of an MBA college and decided to devote full-time into the Institute of Supply Chain Management. And I joined him along in 2014 to create this institute, which was focused on all things supply chain management. The idea is to bring to you a set of education and training programs which are at the cutting edge of what the industry would need. And we offer a range of certifications and training programs. They are there in our website. If you could go to our website, iscmindia.in, you will find them. We also have an event wing called the ISCM Forums, which is where we organize events, both physical and virtual, across all but we're focused only on supply chain management, and that's what we are taking pride in. We also are known because we not only conduct these events, we also conceptualize, curate, and deliver these events. The third vertical of the Institute of Supply Chain Management is called as SCM Pro Knowledge, which is a knowledge portal for supply chain, everyone related to supply chain, where we collect articles and opinions of people from across the globe, and we have interviews there. So you could visit scmpronowledge.in to look at some of our offerings there. With a short introduction, I would like to introduce to you the discussion today and the panelists. Today, we're going to talk about shifting the dial in CPG procurement. Essentially, over the past few years, what has happened is that, over the past 1.5 months, what has happened is that the established way of doing business has undergone a vast amount of change. There was a time when procurement and the challenges of procurement were very easily summarized in one word, which was managing cost. So cost became the core objective of all procurement functions, and necessarily so, because any manufacturing firm, between 50 to 60, 70% of your total cost is controlled by this one department. So therefore, there is a very pertinent pressure on costs. But the disruptions of the last 18 months have shown that it is not just cost which matters, but it is efficiency. It is also ensuring that the continuity in business keeps happening. So it was resilience which became the core. There have been multiple issues where we have not been able to understand how our suppliers are faring, and especially if you have an international supply base, visibility into their operations and what is happening in their country is also quite difficult to. Just 2 days back, we have a news item which came out of China saying that the 14th largest in the world is now again might go into shutdown, and there are already backlog building up. Apart from the other two, which is already under shutdown in China. So we are not sure of how this whole thing pans up, and we wanted to look at how is it that procurement professionals have looked at these changes in that is happening within the procurement domain, and how are we going to manage this in terms of what is the future going to look like, and what is the new dimensions of procurement that organizations are focusing on. And to discuss this with me, I have a very eclectic team of procurement specialists and heads of procurement. I have with me Divya Kumar Bhadani, Head Indirect Procurement at Colgate. I have Somnath Chatterjee, Head Procurement at Pernod Ricard. I have Shivraj TP, Head Corporate Strategic Purchase at Kavin Care. Jaswant Sethia, Vice President CPD and Consumer and Commercial at Imami Limited. Suresh Gadaginwar, General Manager, Corporate Head Purchase at Alana Group. Ananda Kumar, Associate Vice President, Procurement at Hershey's. And Gaurav Baheti, who is founder and CEO at Procol. And I will be your host. My name is Girish, and I'm a director at the Institute of Supply Chain Management. I look after the education and training function in the institute. A quick word about the platform. As you would all know by now, this is a one-way platform for the audience. For the panelists, it is a two-way platform. So if any of you in the audience have a question or would like to ask the panelists anything, we would request you to kindly type it into the chat and send it to us. When you're doing that, we would also like you to mention whom would you like to address this particular question to. All relevant questions would be answered by the panelists, whom you have chosen. So request you to please keep the questions coming. And what we have done is that we have around, if we keep around 15 minutes at the end for question answers, we will have roughly around 70 odd minutes for our discussions with the panel. And getting in straight, I would like to start by, if each of you can very quickly and very short, we are living in the age of Twitter, and therefore, if our responses could also be Twitter-esque, crisp, it will add to the charm of the discussions also. So I would request you to start with the first question, which is essentially, what are the challenges that you see in procurement, and how have you seen procurement changing over the past 1.5 odd years? And I would like to start, again, this is no particular order, probably if I could start with Somnath as the first.
Yeah, Girish, thanks for the question. I think you're right. Procurement was always seen as a cost improvement and compliance management function in the past. But post-pandemic and during the pandemic, it has been proven that there are a lot more procurement can add value in ensuring a supply continuity, because the biggest challenge what all companies faced was supply continuity during pandemic. And therein where the procurement team had played an active role everywhere, right? And therein where the management of all companies realized the value of procurement in two sense. Right? So as a strategy, I think the first step what we did, and I'm sure everybody else have done, is to ensure that we have adequate supply base in the system, so that we at least have a supply security. More than cost, at this period of time, the security was of prime importance. And to that, we had ensured that every material what we're buying, however tiny it is, there has to be an alternative supply. Now that supply base, normally we ignore. We have a thing like BOPP tape, is a very, very C-class item. But a plant can stop because of a BOPP tape not being available. So creating an alternative supply is extremely critical. It comes at a cost, we understand, but it is to sustain the business in this period of time that we have to have an alternate supply. This thing. We have to also review the existing supply base and also go to tier 2 and tier 3 suppliers, which normally people have to do. But in this pandemic period, we have to make sure that if I'm buying some finished product from them, like a mono carton, for example, I have to make sure that his tier 2 supplier is the paper guy or the board guy or the ink supplier in this pandemic are also equally flexible to supply to my need. and more so because the volatility in the volumes was very high. There was no definite pattern of volumes. There were lockdowns happening, lockdowns getting released, and there was a lot of confusion in the demand side. So I think these three areas are critical in this pandemic. And as a normal supply chain person, we should obviously work in terms of simplifying the purchase chain. So the P2P process to simplify through a lot of detailation processes.
Yes.
We can obviously manage the supply risk as I explained. We have to be resilient. That resilience in the current scenario, as well as kind of managing cost. So cost is obviously an important thing, as you said. So you have to manage cost, keeping in mind the consumer preference also. So we cannot just keep on reducing price without having a consumer simplicity. So that's very critical in terms of this thing, and also contribute growth, right, beyond cost. So growth is there, it's coming back, as you see. So we have to also manage the growth which is there. And obviously innovation is something which is driven by procurement. It has to be a part of our entire function, embedded with the overall innovation strategy of the company. And we are the only contact person as procurement from the external world and the internal company, because we talk to suppliers, we talk to various kind of people out there, agencies. So we know what is happening externally, and we are the contact point where we kind of go back to our company and tell what is going up and up. Similarly, what is happening inside our company in terms of what are the thought process in the company can only be diverted towards suppliers through procurement. So I feel procurement in that point of time is a very important function, and currently more so because of the time period we are going through. But going forward, I'm sure we'll come back to normalcy, which is we are heading towards that. And post which we should continue the kind of proving that procurement is obviously, as it is, an important function driving all elements of the supply chain.
Yes, procurement, of course, as I said, we control the largest amount of spend in any organization, and therefore would always be a very strategic function and a very important function for protecting the bottom line. Shivraj, if I could ask you to also chip in with your comments.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, good afternoon, Girish, our panelists and audience. So coming directly to the question, as Mr. Somanath also rightly touched upon, cost is apart from the availability, cost plays a major role in the current business scenario. Whatever be the business, and CPG is also not an exemption on that. All the industries are nowadays more focused towards the cost saving projects. I would say an average of standard is somewhere around 3% on the top line is the year-on-year target, which is happening in the industry. See, in the cost saving, what are the tools and ways? Here I would like to say we should look the cost saving opportunity through a lens of your finished good gross margin and your business priority, rather than merely reducing a per kg of a unit price. So it should be in a different perspective. We need to look the cost saving opportunity. See, one, to mitigate the cost escalation is to alter your MRP. That is the simplest way. But unfortunately, it may not be possible in the in all our product because of the space we are playing, because of the competition, or because of the price point where you are playing. Sometimes somebody plays with the 1 rupee sachet or 5 rupees packet. So you cannot have a choice to increase the cost at all. Then what else? So different ways. So one is a simple alternate negotiation is the simplest way, and there is a limitation on that. Alternate material, alternate vendors. And most importantly, the thing is that redesign. I would say redesigning and reformulation of the products. Redesigning means aesthetically without affecting the quality or the customer need or functional needs. How to optimize the cost. So this is the way most of the industries are moving in this direction, with the brainstorming and buying all the stakeholders, internal as well as external stakeholders, how we can optimize the design to reduce the overall cost. Similar way, the reformulation in the raw material front, what else we can optimize the formulation cost by altering the ingredient. So with a proper collaboration with internal and external. External here is the consumer study I'm referring. Otherwise, in an internal collaboration, this is to some extent, this reformulation plays a major role on the cost reduction. Also, it is important that as a procurement function, we do have a visibility on what's happening in the market and what's going to happen down the line, maybe 3 or 4 months from now, how the commodity price is going to change with the available market intelligence, if you are sharing this on time to the management for the business, they can always take a call on taking a strategy on MRP one with the available limitation. They can take a call on MRP alteration, and two is the product mix in the market. So even we can play around the product mix, depend upon the gross margin of the product impacted by the input inflation rate. And apart from this cost, this thing what procurement can help is one thing is the cash flow management. Cash flow management was how procurement, so we can have a better discussion and clarifying negotiations with vendor on the increased credit terms. But nevertheless, timely payment is the important parameter over here. But definitely that can be taken as a tool. And another is the working capital management. Working capital management, procurement plays a role in that by giving a small multiple orders of a small MOQs in alignment with vendors. That can be a VMI, and that can be a collaboration of vendors ERP with ours, with the help of kind of digital tools available in the market. So with that visibility, we can do a lean inventory system which helps the working capital reduction. Another is the strategic forward coverage, wherever the possibility is there for the A-class material with the strategic partners. It will enhance the save the cost as well as the metal availability. And another is giving a more realistic forecast to vendor is more important, especially in the current scenario of this volatility in the market. So how we'll give that, again with the help of digital, we can do some step on that front. So it will also help to reduce the cost to some extent, but at least as we initially discussed, the material availability, it will definitely help. So that's all the few points from my side on the cost saving initiatives.
Yeah. Thanks, Yuvraj. Yes, a number of initiatives can be taken by organizations to look at cost, including redesign the product to avoid the high cost or difficult to obtain products. But that's sometimes possible, sometimes not possible based on the product that we are having. Ananda, if I could ask you the same and also bring across some of the observations that Sivaraj also did make. How do we manage these challenges, and what do you identify as the biggest change that you have seen in procurement in the last 18 months?
Thanks, Girish. Good afternoon, panelists. So, Somnath and Shivraj both have probably touched upon the entire, way the procurement has got affected during this 1.5 years period. What I have seen is, there are two parts I would divide it is internal and external. Internal, basically your demand variability that you see, the kind of volatility in the requirements, the kind of business we are into, we did not have the choice to play between the SKUs. We need to give what customer wants. So that way the demand was clear and highly volatile. So from an external standpoint, if you see, you depend on the locally sourced items, you depend on imported items as well. There were challenges of they moving around. The initial period of the pandemic, there was no air transportation for you to rush some supplies, neither train. You only depend on road, that too as selected logistics providers, and there was a fixed transit time. So, like Somnath said, activating your backup suppliers or activating multiple supplier base was one of the key learning that we had. And for the kind of variability we have seen on demand, activating these helped us, not only that point in time, but that had helped us continue even today when things are more or less streamlined, where you have sort of normal function. Having said that, we are also facing some challenge on imported items because of the huge ocean freight challenge the entire globe is facing. You don't get space on the vessel. Your cost of transportation by ocean had gone up multiple times, 5 times, 6 times. Air is unimaginable. I was looking at one air import quite recently where the cost had moved up almost 10 times than what I have done it about 2 years ago. So that's the kind of a demand supply gap that you have right now on international movement. So for that particular area, probably we should start looking at a local alternative. that's something that's going to help us on a long way, because we don't know when this is going to end. This might continue, this might stop. Having a quick win with localization or local development is going to be one of the key factors going forward, is what I feel for a procurement professional to look at.
Thanks. Yes, yes, it was freight and understanding your global, moving this freight from across your global footprint, and the challenges to that are very well documented. Probably somewhere down the line, we will start looking at how each of these could be addressed. If I could ask Suresh, we have two aspects of procurement. One is the sourcing to contract, the other is the procure to pay kind of cycles that we have. What are the challenges that you see in the sourcing to contract space?
Yeah, thanks, Girish and panel team member. So some of the points already Mr. Anand, Shivraj, and Somnath has covered. So extended to that, mainly we have to be one is the sourcing, second is the contract. The major contract is we cannot do for the contract for all the items. We have to go for the some of the activities, which is spend more items. We have to be focused. That is one part. Second, the challenge is the transparency is the biggest challenge. So that we have to be focus on those areas. Transparency, that is nowadays is a lot of digital tool, analytical tool is there to handle those transparency. That is the one part which we have to. This is the thing. Second one is that a lot of risk at product side and a lot of risk at vendor side also. So after the pandemic, the things have changed. So now earlier the vendor base was different. Now the vendors is little bit techno savvy. So now they are able to manage the things very easily. Now we are also moving towards a lot of contract management. So that is a part. And traceability, and earlier we used to be doing the traceability in terms of the contract management. The respective team member has to make a contract and keep it in the own desktop and all those things. Now, because of the digital technology, because of the new model of the procurement, now we have a software to manage the management to all the contracts, so that we can visible, we can see our contracts, we can start date, end date, then we can reminders if required, we can put the reminders in the system, and so now it's an easy task to manage some of the through digital technology. Manual is very impossible for the basically for the bigger industries. So because everybody wants to be do as a promoter is looking for mainly into contract. So contract means it's mainly into fixed price. Okay, it is a little bit higher side, it is a lower side, is looking for fixed price. There is no much variable. If it is a variable, it is very difficult for them is to be manage his bottom line. So and time saving. So then main thing is that if you have some contract, then you can do a lot of time saving. So we will go with the approved contracts only or approved vendors only. If you don't have a contract, then you will go for the multiple vendors, then evaluation. It's a very big challenge for the procurement team also. That again, over and above time saving. So time can be able to save those things by proceeding with the contract management. So in addition to that, for the challenges, other challenges in the downside, you can say that internal challenges are there is lack of clarity in the inputs. So those we have to be verified with the team. That is also very important, because if you buy one time, it is a manageable. If it's a contract, it's not a small. Again, it is a long-term contract, short-term contract. It's got to be the compliance in terms of the statutory compliance. It varies from country to country. It varies from location to location, category to category. It varies. We have to be very careful while dealing with the contracts. These are the biggest challenge. We have to be involved, respect to stakeholder, get the things done from the various stakeholders. So that's major things. And we have to be for the cost point of view, but again, it is a challenge for the organization, is a cost saving. That's very important. So in this scenario, we have to work on the reverse engineering. You can say that how to optimize our cost by changing our specification or changing our whatever the as per I'm talking about acceptable quality. We have to work on those. It is not a procurement challenges. It's the end user, then R&D department, then all the department has to work on those areas. So what Mr. Anand is also said, the shipping specifically for the logistics and the shipping cost, freight cost is gone very high. So now we have to think all those things, and it's a lot of cost is increased. To optimize those costs, we have to work on some other area. Then only we can able to the final cost in the system. So that is our overall challenges. It's a very good, and we can able to through contract management we can able to save a lot of time, and we can manage the traceabilities, and we can do a lot of valuation into the system. So that's it. My submission to the all the.
Girish, you're on mute.
Sorry. Yeah, moving from to a contract-based procurement wherever possible, there has been one of the suggested ways forward in procurement. Let's look at some of the other challenges which come up in subsequent questions. Divya, if I could ask you a question which would, we have heard about, four speakers share their views on the challenges that are there in procurement, that face procurement, which also call for very innovative approaches to solutions. What are the kind of innovations that you would like to see us adopt to ensure uninterrupted supply, given the current challenge, the disruptions that we are facing?
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks, Girish. So right now, talking about challenges, when the pandemic situation started, we were seeing 14 days quarantine for people getting infected so that the disease does not spread. Now we are in an era where even containers are being quarantined, 14 days containers being quarantined. So situation is becoming difficult, right? Specifically on imports, it's definitely difficult. And so many lockdowns around the world. And also there've been situations where you've got hurricanes in US giving issues on gas, prices going up, commodities going up, whether you're talking about oils, fats. So situation definitely has been very challenging. I think innovation has become very important in the current situation. How do you specifically secure supplies? I would touch base more on that. Something I think which has changed is also to look into Incoterms. So typically where you are looking at a door delivered price for imports, I think it's a change of paradigm now where the inventory requirements have increased, where you are looking at 3 months, 2 months safety stock to be in place. I think that's time to look into Incoterms again, whether it can be looked at to purchase with a higher MOQ so that you can save something on the freight side, save some cost out there, and then build up and invest that money into inventories. I think that's something which is definitely, has become of interest more, and that's a trend which is coming in. Apart from that, I think also traditionally distributors were not considered to be great partners. They add on cost, and typically bigger manufacturers, we used to go directly to the chemical or the packaging manufacturers. I think that's again a paradigm shift where can that be looked into for creating space for leveraging their service, where as I mentioned, by increasing MOQ, changing Incoterms, maybe keep it at a flat cost to a slightly reducing cost, but secure supplies with having some inventories in place, and also aggregating and simplifying. Considering there are so many alerts which come in from various parts of the world and also locally when there are lockdowns, I think these things are something which have definitely has brought a change in the thought process. And another vital important part, I think, as my colleagues mentioned, single sourcing definitely is to be looked into differently, how you can have a wider supplier base. Apart from that, a new dimension which I see coming in is also on geographical risk mitigation. Can we have suppliers from different geographies for the same material? If I am buying a material A, can I have a source within India? Can I have also a source in Europe? So those things have started gaining traction. Simply, which is helping in the current scenario with the VUCA world to get a better supply security. Thanks, Girish.
Yes, thanks, Divya. One of the problems that we normally face is that we rarely understand the geography of supply. And this pandemic has proved again, time and again, that we need to spend some amount of time looking at the geography of supplies, because there are, I was reading a report by McKinsey where around 127 commodities, China is the sole supplier. So if you're dealing in that, where whatever you do, you have to go back to that particular, and therefore, how do I develop alternate suppliers in other parts of the world? It's a challenge that we will face. Let's see how we can do that. Coming to you, Jaswant, if I could take the same question over to you in terms of looking at, we talked on a lot of challenges. If you could look at what could be the way we could address these questions. And also, probably you could throw some light on how technology also can be brought in to address some of the challenges that we have. Jaswant?
Yeah, sorry. So there was in between, there's a disconnection happened. So, okay. So good afternoon, everybody. So see, pandemic, as we said, was a lot of challenges across industries, and the similar impacts were also felt in CPG industry. And the challenges were many kind of, Divya also said, there is internal price sustenance, and even if you, many times the supply challenges were also on stake, and even the transporters challenges, the internal, external challenges. So there were many kind of challenges. And out of that, a few of such mitigation activities, let me describe it. So I rate alertness and awareness is one of the solution, which though it looks very simple, that alertness and awareness is a general phenomena, but during this pandemic, having alertness and awareing about the situation, and take all those feelers available as an indicator of possible disruption which may happen, and be prepared for all your backup plans, like you have look for different weather, look for different geographies, and look for even different items for your categories. So there are many of things which you should look at, and that only when you do it, when you have those feelers available with you. And how you can do is when you have alertness and awareness, the entire team must be aware of that, what is happening around. Is that I got any feeler which tells that this vendor is going to be switched off, or this facility is going to be switched off, or this material is going to be switched off. So that's the one thing which I read, that the alertness and awareness. Then I take it as a close coordination with all your partners, suppliers, whatever the best practices, what are the best practices which you have adopted, you feel that these are very important, you communicate them, guide them. So that would really help you to, all your supplier partner also come to the board of what your thinking processes are. During this pandemic, we also witnessed there's a complete change in the pattern of supply chain, right? And because of that, there are a lot of disruption happened, which affected demand and supply cycles of many commodities. Like many of my friends said that there's a crude issue. There is a vegetable oil has gone from here to here, and there were many change in the pattern also in the consumer behavior. So that has possessed and resulted in discontinuation or even short supply and in closure of many businesses. And hence the timely assessment of such commodities and then well prepared in advance to mitigate them. I think like for alternate recipes, look for alternate categories, items altogether. So these kind of things if we think before what something can happen. Now, the next thing I think is the strategic focus on key category of items we procure, and then come out of a typical mind set of controlling inventories. See, normally as a purchaser, as we also think the inventories should be controlled. So you have to come out of that mind, and there is a trade-off between the high inventories versus the business loss we have, and accordingly keep changing your norms according to the situation. that will also certainly help in to avoid disruptions. The second part of disruption, which has also come into price. So the price and cost is basically, if you look at the internal part of procurement, and pandemic created a lot of disruption. So there's steep increase in the prices happened, and across commodities, and non-availability that has also pushed us entire market on turmoil. So the promptness, again, I said the promptness in understanding the situation and activating all such options certainly helped. Last but least, I also think there are a lot of small activities which at an organization level you have to do. So you have to align your all stakeholders, your all internal and external teams to speed up the decision-making processes. See, normally over the period, we build a lot of layers in the decision-making system, but the pandemic has also learned us that, you need to go beyond the typical way of handling the decision-making process. You need to be very prompt on deciding whether to take this opportunity or not. So I feel this kind of steps would really help us.
Thanks, Jaswant. Yes, it also brings me to a question which I could probably lead for Gaurav. Gaurav, we heard the challenges of, as articulated by the panelists here, and some of them are essentially business challenges, but I think there's a lot more which has to do with getting information in time, managing the process seamlessly, efficiently, in an era where most of us are not still regular in the office. We still are having large part of our workforce working from home. In this kind of a scenario, what are the kind of technologies that are available for the purchase function to enable, streamline their operations and make it possible for them to stay on top whatever happens?
Thanks, Girish. Look, over the past 30 minutes, I think we all heard about the challenges across the industry, across many geographies. The challenges are here to remain and are going to get even difficult and will get even more challenging in the future, is how we see it. The times that we live in are uncertain, which means the challenges that will arise out of these situations will be things that can't be foreseen much earlier. No matter how much anyone tries, prediction of such events is physically not possible. So to address this, the few things that many companies are focusing on is first becoming more agile and flexible. What that means is all the robust or the processes they had since many years, they're trying to change according to the times and trying to bend the rules of how the procurement was looked in earlier. So we've seen the top quartile of the highest, best performance procurement leaders have been changing their culture of procurement. So it starts with people who's driving these changes and making sure the decision making, the speed of things, the robustness of their processes can be as flexible as possible to address the changing times. So that's one. To address these changing times, everything comes down to people, processes, and technology, right? When it comes to operational driving. It starts with people and culture who implement different processes for different times and different situations, which can be implemented and accelerated through technology. It all starts with people and processes, and technology is the enabler for all the initiatives that people spoke of here, be it from diversifying supplier base, identifying new supply sources, any specific project or event for sourcing. Everything can be planned, managed, tracked, get real-time visibility managed through technology better. But technology serves one key purpose, which is optimization. People and processes are quite optimal at every company. And technology is that additional competitive advantage that people are adopting to bring in the differentiators and optimizing it even further. And essentially, that's what best execution in these current times look like. One, you have to be as agile as possible, and second, you have to take the wave and take the leap to drive these changes across the organization. With that thought, I think many people here have used systems and technologies before in their procurement, and they continue to adapt and evolve and upgrade their technology toolkits. We have seen this from levers to PNGs to even small manufacturers, $20-50 million revenue companies who are adapting such technologies, which are not very widely known. But once they adapt it, it brings in huge difference in their operational excellence. That's what procurement is all about at the end of the day, driving operational excellence, reducing cost, and enabling the business to drive more sales.
Yes, it's true. Procurement has got the objective of rationalizing cost or while at the same time maximizing efficiencies, and that is a challenge, and that's a kind of balancing act which procurement has to walk. And hopefully, with the kind of tools that is available today, probably we will now also have a look at how is it that we are looking at all these issues and how are we trying to balance it in terms of track and trace visibility. If I could come to Somnath. Somnath, supply-based rationalization is something that we have all talked about. We all want to create, and question then is that when my products, when I'm in a single vendor or imported kind of a product, how feasible and how easy is it for me to look at supply-based rationalization? What are the kind of challenge and the insights that you can provide for that?
See, I would not call it as rationalization. I would call it as review. So now is a high time to review your supply base. There are suppliers who are there in the system for quite some time, and a C-class supplier not kind of paid attention to. So first is to review the supply base. Second is to, as I said earlier, go to the tier 2 and tier 3 supply base also. Because if there is a disruption at any point of time, your main supplier may not be able to meet the requirements what you have. So review it and then go to tier 2, tier 3 suppliers. And as I said, create an alternate backup for every material what you're buying, however tiny it may be. It is cost. Recently, we have a small lead which we use for a product called something special. That lead cost around 10 rupees and the product cost around 2,000 rupees in the shelf, right? And we had only one supplier, the volumes are petty. So we had one supplier that was going on well. But now we developed another supplier with the same mold, and investment in mold is obviously expensive, as you know. But that's the cost of doing business in this era of time. So creating alternatives, however tiny it is, at a cost is something which we should look at, review the entire supply base and create alternatives wherever it is required. That is my recommendation to manage the current pandemic situations in uncertainties. You don't meet.
Thanks, Somnath. It was, yeah, but the challenge here is again two things. One is that how can technology, is there something that technology can play a role here?
See, technology, you can see when we have a large amount of SKUs, obviously, you can definitely have a digital implication of having a spend analysis done, depending on the categorization, what are the critical supplier or the critical need of component. And then digital, you can find out, like there is a process called SCORE, where you actually identify the kind of SKUs where we definitely need a alternate suppliers as a priority, right? And there are items where you don't need it as a priority. Obviously, it has to be there, but it has to be priority number 3 or 4. So obviously, we can make use of declaration in terms of finding out in which area are we weak and which area there is a risk coming in, and accordingly act on it.
Thanks. Thanks, Somnath. If I could now come to Sivaraj. Sivaraj, one of the challenges we also have, one of the issues that procurement faces is the we spoke about reviewing the, at least Somnath was speaking about reviewing your supply bases. Some people called it a supply-based rationalization. We also looked at how to create an alternate vendor network. While these are there, I think one of the oldest and established problems that we need to face is cost rationalization. What are your thoughts on this, given the current circumstances? How do you think cost rationalization is going to evolve?
Yeah, exactly. So that's what in fact, I touched upon in my initial discussion, your first question on the challenges. So just it's not a repeat, just kind of add points to that. So simple cost saving is the way what we are following on the cost saving is the negotiation and reducing a per kg or per unit cost. So what here I'm stressing is, rather than looking into that aspect, we should see through with respect to the gross margin of your finished products. What is the impact of a particular unit price changes? What is the impact on your gross margin? And whether it is it no loss in gross margin affordable to anyone, but if it is it comparably, then we can prioritize the projects. Which projects we need to take first, and which project we can take it a second phase. So the prioritization can be done with respect to the gross margin impact basis. That is one thing. And another is the brainstorming session. What we I earlier told that 2 to 3% on the top line. So 3% of top line will not come as such from nowhere. So we need to have a different kind of brainstorming first. Then the prioritize the ideas based on the gross margin aspect, what I touched upon the initial thing, and then the buy-in from the concerned internal stakeholders first. So whether it is a marketing, whether it is an R&D, whether it is a product, with this, all these things, we need to have a buy-in, and when that buy-in is there, then a systematic drive and monitoring of the projects on a periodic basis. So that's the way industries are doing now. So once all these lists are there, then the annual target is there, then the periodic monitoring on a monthly or bi-weekly basis, where we are stacking and what project we need to prioritize, where we need to escalate kind of thing. So that driving is essential for the cost saving. So this cost saving can be a different kind of projects. So that can be a altogether a different material or a different formulations kind of things. So basically, the cost saving is to be looked on the gross margin impact. That is, again, I am stressing on that point. Apart from this thing, I already told on the cash flow management, working capital management kind of thing, where we can help we can contribute as a procurement to the whole business, where we can reduce the cost. Yeah, that's all. You mute.
Thanks, Yuvraj. What I'm going to do now is that I'm going to slightly change the order in which we have been doing it, and probably invite Suresh now to give us an overview or his comments on, Gaurav touched upon visibility and traceability and how they are crucial to procurement. And also, I think all our panelists have also been agreeing that one of the things that we need is a visibility and traceability of understanding what, when, where is happening within our networks. What are the steps that are currently being looked up to by procurement function to address this concept, this function of visibility, and how do we improve visibility and traceability in our supply networks?
Yeah, thanks, Girish. What Mr. Gaurav said is rightly said some of the points very clearly. So I will call it as a PPTR, triple P. So the one is the people. People is very, very important actually. Second is the process. That we have to redefine our process. If our people are working so many years, if you're not redefining your process, you have to simplify. I'm not taking simplification of the process in the system is very, very important. Third is that either we can call it as either we will say P is the profit. The profit, how do you arrive at the profit? Through technology only. So now the technology plays very, very important role this current scenario actually. So technology is a lot of digital technology is available for the procurement, buying of the multiple items or service from domestic or international. So the Procol is one of the things which you are, it's very familiar and everybody is aware of that actually. And we are also using some of the things for the domestic, for the imported some of the items also. But really, it gives a lot of confidence. And over and above the change management, the change management is completely. It's not from the bottom up approach. It is a top down approach. It's very important in the organizations. Definitely, we can bring the valuation through people, through process, through technology. So that's I want to be crispy. I want to say to everyone. Actually, that's all.
Thank you. Thank you, Suresh. If I could move on to bring in Jaswant at this point in time, and Jaswant, if I could probably request you to focus on one more area, which is essentially managing spends. How easy or how difficult is it, and what are the kind of initiatives that we are seeing in spend management?
Okay. So I'm audible, right?
Yeah, you are.
Okay. So see, in current time, with the help of proper technology, spend analysis become easy and quick. Rather, it can be done live as well. And all you need to do is you have proper filtrations, and for that, master data should have all the extensions of business dimension or business requirement. CPG industry, if you look at, commonly requires access to data like whether how your brand wise how you are spending, or your product wise how you are spending, or what is that SKU mix, or your item group or categories how you are handling, or whether it is how your suppliers are performing. So all this bifurcation, I think the best first use is have master data extension for all your spend analysis. With that, I think with the once we do that, all your transactions for a particular period you can do filtration and can be used through various dashboarding systems. So that is one way I look at. And another way I look at that, the spend categorization further also help in your better way of looking at it, such as categorization of high value, or you may categorize as your entire category as ABC items, and you focus on your key items, which is say 80% item you cover. So with that, your focus also increases. So this could be dynamic also, and based on dynamic scenario, it keep on changing based on the categorization. So this is what I looked at it.
If I could bring the same thing and probably request Divya also to Divya, one of the things that we talk about when all that we talked about across in this panel, including cost rationalization, spend rationalization, track and trace, all these call for a high level of technology in our operations. We have always had people, we have had processes. With technology coming in, the processes have to change, but sometimes technology has come in, process has not changed. There's a process technology disconnect there. What I would probably like you to with us is what are the building blocks of a smart and interconnected procurement function?
Yeah. So first, I would touch base upon what are the growing needs and how can procurement become a more smarter function. And I would touch base upon both things, both direct materials as well as some of the indirect services. I think one thing which needs to be looked in differently is on outsourcing. It's a time where managing everything in-house might not always be inefficient. So are there areas which can really be outsourced? Outsourced in the sense, things like giving examples, let's say travel bookings, or let's say your in-house IT support help desk. So I think that's something which should be looked into differently. That is something which can really help in terms of building reliability, making simplification in the regular routine activities. Also, digital and analytics, I think they've become essential, I would say, in the current times. How can we have right spend analytics in place? How can we have systems to do sourcing events, to manage contracts. I think that's become essential. And also have dashboards to track commodities. The way the things have become volatile, how do we have those analytics in place which help us track commodities and also show some future impact on the spends and costs. So I think that's something which is become of a high need today. With all these things happening, where the requirement of technology is increasing, where the requirements of analytics is increasing, I think even within the procurement function, also there's some need of looking into the organization structures as well. Within the procurement function can be, I think in terms of roles and responsibilities, there's become an imminent need of also having certain lead positions for procurement operations. People who can have master data set up, good hands on having these analytic reports, dashboards in place, maintaining data integrity, giving analytical reports. That's, I think, become a emerging trend rather than only having the sourcing specialists, which have traditionally been experts on commodities and markets. Also, there's been, with the increasing complexity, a growing need of having a better engagement with the other functions, which may be, marketing or manufacturing or customer service, logistics. So I think that's also a growing need to have a clear roadmap, clear responsibility in terms of increasing engagement and, and hence having a full collaboration within the organization. So I think these are some things which have been emerging, which should help in terms of increasing effectiveness and making the procurement organization smarter.
Thank you. If I could now ask Ananda for a slightly more focused looking at technology and smart connected function. One of the challenges or one of the core aspects of procurement as a function is the collaboration both within and outside the organization, which is of core interest. How can we enhance collaboration with both business partners and the organization within the departments within the organization to improve overall efficiency of procurement?
So, like Divya had dwelt upon, cross-functional team culture is something that's going to play one of the major roles going forward. That is where you collaborate with, the internal stakeholders of different functions like marketing or sales or manufacturing, quality, R&D. All these collaborative effort only will lead us to some sort of a solution to the various problems we have. This is as far as internal is concerned. And, we have been having such, kind of forums within the company, within the organization across different aspects that we want to work upon. And we have been successfully having good results coming out of it. And when it comes to external, again, you got to be transparent. You got to be, very collaborative with your suppliers. One example that I can give you is probably rather two, I'll say, we have been having a monopoly supplier for quite some time. And over a period in time, we started developing backups for them. Now, within that supplier also, I had to continuously be in touch with them, keep asking them options, solutions where we can improve upon the cost. So in one area, they have come back to me and said, with the slight modification on the machine, we can increase the output twice of what it is currently giving. And that had given me a very good saving. In fact, I was able to fully erase of the transportation cost I was having on that particular item. I used to move it at least 1,000 miles away from my factory. Now, alternate vendor is one option where I have told these vendors who supply to me from a very farther locations to come and set up shop within my campus. They could not, multiple suppliers, they could not because they don't have any, sort of hold in that particular part of the country. fortunately, one of the industrialists from that particular industrial complex came to us and said, hey, I want to do this. If you give me an opportunity, I would like to invest upon this technology, and then I would like to support your requirement. We gave them the opportunity. They have implemented it. It's been 3 years. They were successfully able to deliver us the product. That is something that they never did, while they are into different kind of a business segment, they came forward. So if you open up opportunities to your own suppliers, you can go and tell a corrugator manufacturer to set up a injection molding plant. If they have the kind of muscle power, they'll do it. We have been successful doing that in one of the locations. So the more collaborative you are, the more open and transparent you are, you can also discuss the kind of challenges you have on the cost front, where the suppliers also sometimes think out of the box and come back to you with the solutions. So I think both internal, external, your collaboration is going to be the key, and it's a continuous learning experience for both the sides.
Yes, it is. Yes, sometimes your suppliers can help you, and they also are. Today, innovation is not a prerogative of only the larger organizations. It is the small, nimble organizations which probably will bring in a lot more innovation to an application than the larger established organizations because they have no baggage and they think out of the box. And as you very correctly said, if they have the ability, they definitely will come through. Gaurav, we have heard a lot of questions from both Divya, Ananda, Suresh, Jaswant. All of them have laid out a lot of wishes in terms of how procurement can benefit. If I were to put all of them in together and say that, how do you see technology evolving to help these challenges which Divya and other panelists have brought out?
It's about time, Girish. Just like I previously said, give enough time for each of these problems. Again, these challenges and problems will continue to evolve, but as long as you've got the 3 right ingredients for running operational excellence, things can be in place. So even as a technology company, we focus on these 3 things only. If we have to ensure our customers' success, we have to ensure we are building the products and solutions for them to adapt it well. Which is why whenever we are building solutions, we build an internal committee of customers of sorts where we sort of get this real-time feedback from all of them. So it's a set process for solution development now at Procall. Essentially, when we engage with any multinational, we try and sit and do an opportunity assessment for them, which is the first step for launching any new category or building a roadmap with them. And typically, now that we have done this for many corporates, we are confident of building a methodology and science around it to deliver value. And essentially, it comes down to the right partner. A right partner will figure out a way to work together to scale the solutions with you, drive the change management, push things with you to make that happen. But it all comes down to how motivated both the stakeholders are to increase the profit margin, which directly will translate into valuation of the company. So it all comes down to this collaboration between the stakeholders, and I believe all problems and challenges technology can figure out solutions to. It's just about that procurement people and technology people generally don't find a bridge together. And that's where I believe we've come in. We understand procurement and technology, and we should be able to bridge that gap. And that is a core differentiator. I'm not kidding.
Yes.
People did not believe us back then, but bridging that gap is very, very important because these are 2 very different languages.
Yes. You did touch upon some very, very interesting and very core issues in tech, and this has been the bane of technology all through, from the earlier days of those mainframe solutions that were there. we have been able to bring in process, we have been able to bring in technology, but we have not changed the processes to leverage the technology that we can bring in. We've been able to, again, as you very rightly said, someone needs to build a bridge between technology and its application, and that is something that is a felt need. Again, without going through the same order, if I could just juggle up the order and bring in Divya probably to talk about something that's very interesting also. Half your problems are because of demand fluctuations. If the demand is not stable and the demand is volatile, your ability to procure product, raw materials well in time to take advantage of price is going to be limited. So how would you in your organization, or how would you like to procurement and this demand functions to work together, and what are the kind of challenges that you see in this kind of collaboration?
Yes, so I think in the current scenario also what has happened is there have been lots of new needs or new launches or new products which have come into the market. And, like, for example, hygiene has become of more importance than it was ever before. So I think that's the dynamic which has come in. And yes, it's not always that what is set as a budgeted demand or a realistic demand through the year happens. There are lots of things which come in between. And that's, I think, a new reality which has taken place. I think what is more important out here is doing a supplier segmentation, being very clear on who are your innovation partners, who are your strategic partners, and building up a relation with them. When these kind of requirements come in, so you should always have a clear relationship with the supplier and an understanding of who are the suppliers who can come up, who can invest when it comes to certain requirements on packaging, who are the suppliers who can look into partnering even for certain developments which might be required. So I think that continues to be a key part. In terms of typically cost management, I think these portions need to be more tactical. So you need to scan through the market, understand who are the players. There might be new players, there might be existing players, and then be more tactical in your approach when you're starting this, to scan the market and come back with who can be the suppliers who are the best fit for this new demand, who have the right capabilities, right infrastructure, right supply capabilities, and evaluate in that fashion. So it's very important in the current times. Definitely, it's become very important to have that agility to come back with solutions and support business for the new requirements.
What will be the nature of this collaboration? Because demand is volatile and you need lead time. So how do you kind of bring in that kind of synergies there?
So yes, for a set business where you know that there is a certain amount of demand volatility, perhaps it needs to be looked into differently in terms of how can we have a supplier managed inventory, how can we have the right stocks in place, looking into historical data, building analysis in terms of what can be the variabilities expected, and then typically building up the safety buffer either at your end or the supplier's end. Those dynamics need to be looked into. But I think also what is happening in terms of changing in formulations, changing in requirements that have also become a part of this new normal. I think for those things, it's also very important to be open to bring in solutions from outside. Might not be from the existing supply base, but also put forward solutions and support business for those agile requirements.
Yes, essentially you're saying that we are now going into a data-driven decision making rather than, so that's again going to be heavy on understanding data, understanding analytics.
Yes.
So you're going to see a change that way. If I were to pick up a similar thread when it comes to procurement, and if I could ask Somnath again to come in here. Somnath, one of the challenges that we see is, what do you see is the future direction in which technologies, in which procurement is moving?
See, procurement will move towards digitalization for sure. It's basically the game just started using of predictive analysis, going for artificial intelligence, segmenting suppliers, segmenting requirements, managing spend. And we as a global company, it is very critical for us that we have a global perception of what is happening in the world in terms of spend management. Because there are a lot of synergies which can come into when we buy a commodity in India or maybe buy it in UK or France, wherever. So I think the way forward is clearly a digitalization of procurement processes, which has started already, but it has to pick up space. Simplifying the P2P process. In fact, a lot of time are spent in kind of invoicing, clearing of payment, then all those stuff. So that can be simplified. Most companies have done it, but it's an opportunity for a lot of companies where you can definitely simplify the entire P2P process, because it's end of the day, just a payment cycle you have to give. And there are a lot of checks and balances which can be automated, right? Which can be there. Innovation, as discussed, innovation has to be there as a part of procurement. We have to build in the innovation culture within procurement and get into involvement, get proactively involved in the design stage as procurement. Like what happens in procurement, we get a finished kind of deliverable where we cannot add value. So the importance is to get into the design stage and participate there and see how to work towards this thing, and also be a part of sustainability initiatives of the company. That's becoming the buzzword. It's driven by data requirements, public perception, economic pressures, government policies. Sustainability affects every aspect of packaging, right? And it's becoming a very complex issue. But over the years, we have known the truth. It's basically the goal is to make incremental improvements over a period of time to drive sustainability, to reduce the overall environmental impact. So this cannot be done overnight. It's a journey. We have to plan, and there is opportunities in every area of material what we're buying. We have to talk to suppliers, we have to understand, we have to get into the details of the material and work towards it. So sustainability is one of the challenges coming to a procurement, which was not there before. And it has gained momentum and gained more focus now. So I believe these are the 4 or 5 priority areas where we should focus on in procurement going forward.
Thanks, Somnath. If I could bring in Suresh now, and Suresh, this is a question also which has come in by someone from the audience has also asked this, and it has been asked, it's been directed to you. What is the extent of digitalization that you see today, and what do you think still needs to be done?
Yeah, thanks, Luis. There is a lot of opportunity in the digital platform for the procurement, and specifically for the spend management is nowadays is it's everybody is managing right now. So apart from that, what Somnath has said, the predictive analysis is very, very important. Then what is the procurement? Procurement is the decision making is a very right time, right decision is very, very important. So for that, you have to be that the tool is required to take a decisions basis your analytics. So that is the one of the key things. You need to be. Am I audible? Yeah.
Yes,
Key things to be developed. So that is one part. And apart from this, now things for managing, but technology, the digital technology managing with the you can say upgraded vendors or upgraded suppliers is very easy. But managing with the farmers, managing with considering the Indian trend and Indian geographical location, it is very difficult to manage those suppliers. But however, that for example through app-based application, because nowadays that everybody using, whether it is a farmer, whether it is the village, whether it is city place, everybody using app. So always app-based applications, any procurement application, it helps a lot. And nowadays Android is everybody aware of that actually. So they at least we need to create a dashboard like that so that they can give the pricing. They can give the pricing and they can give the as per the expert. One is that everything is standard. We know what is the delivery period, what is the cost, but now you have to ask for the realistic prices. That is very, very important. And time management is very, very important. Nowadays, it's very difficult to negotiate manually because we need to increase our manpower in the organization. So less manpower, lean manpower. We can do a lot of through digital, whether it is auction, whether it is RFP, RFQ, then we can able to, with less manpower, we can maximize our yield or efficiency of the procurement actually. And app-based application nowadays, everybody is preferring. That's number one. It is a lot of, I have seen many things, but all developers are developing some of the things at the backend. And definitely maybe after 1 year, 2 years becomes a very, but now the current usage in India is very less. I'm talking about the Indian culture or Indian things, they're very less, but maybe probably next 2 years, maybe 20-30% will be based on the complete app-based applications, giving the quotation, comparisons, then the decision tool will tell you how to go ahead, to whom you should place the orders. So then automatically that data will select from that that decision making process. That automatically PO will be created. The PO automatically goes to the vendor. Then the vendor will make send the material. So those things it will automatically it will develop in India. Even abroad is some of the areas specifically for Europe and US it's a little bit familiar. But as per the Indian culture, definitely it will be improved. Your cost of the manpower is also very high in India. So then every organization is looking for all the locations, all the areas. So we have developed the theme like a force. Force is a theme focus on reducing the cost everywhere. So that's I have developed the theme at our end in organizations. If I'm making any presentations, I'm putting the force team. We are the force team, focus on reducing the cost everywhere. So whenever I have a meeting with the cross-functional team or business head, anybody, so this is the way I have to drive, whether it is a less spend, more spend, but everybody has to think on this. And we are as a supporting function, we are supporting to those guys, and basis that only we are managing overall spend. And this is the things which we are looking for, and we are managing very well through. We have already initiated some of the digital process, but still a lot of gaps in the system that we need to work on the catalog management, then guided by buying. So because why it is required by the procurement point of it, it's okay, but for the end user perspectives also we have to think all those things. If end user is familiar with all those things, then he can give the right inputs to the procurement. The procurement cycle time can be reduced very easily, and vendor we can attach with the vendor so that he can give the right material and right time as per the requirements. And rest points already my colleagues have covered. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Suresh. Ananda, if I could bring you in at this point in time and also request you to take us through your wish list for technology and how do you see technology and digitalization evolve in procurement?
So I think like most of the other functions in any organization, procurement also should look at digitizing the whole way they work. I have started my career at a time where I used to write purchase orders by hand. Slowly we evolved, from there people started moving to ERP based, ordering. Now I think the time has come where we are also looking at e-bidding and marrying the tool of e-bidding with the ERP. There are also some technologies, that are in place, like can you also track your logistics movement? You have placed an order. If you have your own logistics vendor, has he placed a truck and has he started moving? You link it through his GPS and all that. I think sooner or later you got to be also moving on to a situation where you have your own, like Divya mentioned, your own dashboard that clearly gives you, what is the kind of spend that you have, what are the kind of category of materials you buy, whether there are some items which are not available for you for your production. All that, I think some point or the other we'll have to embrace technology into our own processing also. It takes a lot of time for at least people in procurement to really get into this kind of an automation, because that's going to really pose a challenge to them. If I got to use technology, the conventional way of thinking and buying and negotiating is going to, take a backseat. Everything is going to be transparent, but that's going to pave way for you to have more supplier base, better savings, and also better visibility on what you have, what you don't have. You can also go back to the system and say, hey, this was the demand. This is the kind of stocks that I should have maintained. This is what we have been following. You start collaborating with the internal team also on how you are going to migrate from what you are right now doing to a digital world. I think that would also give them more responsibility to be more accurate on what the kind of demands they're going to come with. We have moved quite a long way on getting most of our vendor documentation online. Quality is totally automated now. There were times where we were manually having documents which they used to flip through, but today they have a software tool where they store all the documents, and on a click of a mouse they say, yes, this vendor is approved, this vendor is rejected, these were his past issues which we wanted you to attend, so on and so forth.
Thanks, Ananda. If I were to take the same question across to you, Jaswant, what is your wish list for technology? You're on mute, sir.
So when I say technology, this starts from the base planning tools, where you have to have your production planning and the procurement planning need to be aligned. So the integrated production planning and procurement planning tool with more of automations in transactions and flexibility in adapting these situations, like the quick simulations of impact due to changes for taking faster decisions. The next part comes is the prices, cost. So we should have the robust cost modules led by the technology platform. So those will integrate all the components. So there are two kind of procurement. One is the taking quotations, then comparing them and getting best out of it. Another is that there are modules which are available, like you provide the cost insights to the vendors, where you have all the component pricing set and all, and those periodically changes. Changing those items periodically would have a lot of internal challenges. So if we create on the technology platform, the robust cost module would help us to simulate cost quickly. Like I remember the days when for every item, for every component of the items, we need to create some Excel sheet. For individual item, you need to create for different sites, for different areas, and it used to take a lot of days of time, like 15-20 days. The month is over, still you are still releasing the prices, and now it just click of buttons, you simulate all the costs, and that all flash to vendors. So I'm thinking those kind of modules also would help us to leverage in the technologies. Now, another is the supplier relationship tool, which for efficiently and effectively manage suppliers and get better visibility and traceability. This process should also consider quick response on vendor development as well as their qualification processes. Now, when we talk about technology, it also helps. We can take the help of the performance measurement. Typically in the procurement, there are various compliances which link to the productions or which link to the own compliances, like whether my lead time with all my vendor partners I'm meeting those lead times or not, whether those lead times are exceptional or not. How do I track those? So I can use the technology where all my KPIs are built in such a way so that every period of time, let's say 15 days or in a month period cycle time, I can quickly go through that. I take those exceptions and take actions on that. This also follows. Yeah, please.
Girish, I want to add on this point. Really, the reporting has improved through technology reporting structure. Earlier, we used to make a manual reports. Now it's for single button we can able to get the reports activity wise, task wise. We can able to support to the management, because management is asking for the transparency. The transparency means the reporting is a transparency for that actually. And one thing I would say, earlier I used to take for the 3-4 vendor negotiation, it takes 2 days, 5 days like this. Now same activities, if you're dealing with maybe more than 25 vendors, but some of the activities we are calling for the 25 vendors, within half an hour we're closing the pricing. That is a great achievement which I have experienced in the digital platform actually, and it's a very good, and we are happy Yeah. This is just an example I'm to give you to you.
Yeah.
Right. So likewise, the action-based integrated dashboard systems, like for entire P2P processes. Currently, if we look at, we all used to struggle that, though after placing orders, we have that visibility, which vendor to supply when and what time. But still, whether internally, whether have we converted all the requirements, whether which person is to take what kind of action, whether my internal team has allocated all the orders, all the vendor allocations to my the person who needs to release the order. So there are a lot of things which currently most of us struggle. We don't have that visibility that whether and which person is performing which kind of task or not. So if we can develop kind of action-based integrated dashboarding system, will always tell us, these kind of people, these are the people where these are the tasks which is pending.
Yes.
So this kind of.
Thanks, Jaswant. If I could take the same question to Somnath and ask you for your wish list. You're on mute, sir.
I think it was well covered by all my previous panelists. So we have also embarked on this journey of digitalization, and now our entire end-to-end supply chain, we are working on an unconstant demand. So once we get a unconstant demand, it actually goes into a supply chain material planning, dispatch planning, right? And we track it to the depot wise. So the norm adherence, like how much norm should I keep of material at the plant, comes from the forecast variability, which is there at the upper end. So this entire thing was all superficial previously, and now it's all digital. So if there is a forecast variation of maybe 75% accuracy, not variation, accuracy, then this is my norm, right? These are norm material I have to keep based on the lead times and the supply location and everything. And if this accuracy comes down, then obviously I have to keep more inventory. So that automatically gives the norms will also go undergo change. Hence, we can always go back to sales and question, boss, your forecast accuracy has dropped, right? So how do we take care of that? So earlier it was a question of, boss, the packing material is not there in the plant. Now, why is it not there in the plant? Today we have a reason to say, boss, it is not there in the plant because the forecast given in M-1 is obviously much lower than what is actually written in M0. So those kind of things are definitely helping us, and this is the way to go with business increasing, the complexity increasing across the globe. This is, I think, the way to go. And as I said in the initial comment, that is the way forward for all companies in procurement.
Thanks, Somnath. Sivraj, if I could bring you in and also request you to probably, give us your view of what are the new opportunities that you're seeing in procurement as a function.
Yeah, really. So as the team touched upon, as Soman very recently told, is the forecast accuracy and kind of thing how we can serve in better way. So normally forecast may not be able to possible sometimes. So what we used to say is that as a customer is taking a product from the shelf today, we need to replace that immediately, and that pull has to be there at the vendor end. So some kind of digital.
You've gone on mute, sir.
Yeah, so some kind of digital platform which will help the organization to cascade that demand to the vendor and vendor to that extent. So that will be a really a good this thing, and a lot of softwares are available, but there's a lot of scopes to add further on that. And another thing, as Suresh as rightly mentioned, on the cost modules, a lot of cost still sometimes are coming or semi.
You're again gone mute, sir.
We lost you.
See, some robots are picking the most of the commodity prices are published in the platforms. So it has to pick from there, and inbuilt in our cost sheet on a periodic basis, automatically cost sheet will prepare, and the pricing it will link to the PO, and so those kind of things are happening in the market. There is a further scope in doing that. And apart from the kind of remote working thing, SRM is a task now, supplier relationship management. So we need to, earlier we used to go there a meeting and shouldering them kind of things. So there is a structured periodical, what you kind of supplier virtual meeting is definitely helpful. And also to the line of innovation, in innovation days, in virtual platform, No, in a particular, whether it is in a single organization or a pool of organization, for innovations or what are there, this kind of digital platform can contribute to some extent. Yeah.
Thanks, Shivraj. Gaurav, now coming back with all these challenges and all these wish lists back to you, if you could give us your view on, because you're also a bridge between technology and the function. If you could give us a view on how you see this whole function evolving and what do you see the direction in which it's moving, and what are the things that excite you when you look at technology?
So technology is good at few things very well, Girish. To start off with, the amount of data it can process, the amount of information sources it can crawl, and the intelligence algorithm it can build on top of these two result in the optimization in supply chains and procurement. To give you examples, for example, today on Procall, for example, 100,000 events have been conducted, and we have processed over 1 million bids or something. And to analyze the supplier behavior with this data, we were able to build new models on top for negotiations. And this one key behavioral data led us to build new models on how companies can negotiate better. This is just one example, but essentially with gathering more data and gathering more information, gathering more data sources and putting them in a good model result in productiveness for all the things that you just mentioned, all the panelists have mentioned. And that's the future is what we believe. So continuous focus on evolving your own procurement models to make them better, optimizing them will result in the best practices, I believe, in the future.
Thanks, Gaurav. Yes, we have come now to the end of the session, and we have seen a very wide spectrum of topics which we covered, right from starting with the challenges that procurement as a function faced, identified, and moved it through the multiple phases. We all talked about the major challenges that procurement as a function faced. Some of the commonly identified themes were that transparency is one of the areas where we need to focus on and build in transparency, not just to the adjacent nodes, but also deep down into the supply networks, because given the global nature and the complex supply chains that we have built over a period of time, probably a disturbance in one of your deep tiers might have the potential to disrupt you, and you would be caught surprised. This essentially was again a Harvard study which was once done, and they said that 60% of the disruptions which Ford faced came from suppliers who were the 7th or 8th tier in their chain, and they were not the focus of attention, while the larger suppliers were the focus of attention. So probably some of your larger suppliers would. There is a need to go down this transparency lane, and therefore transparency becomes very, very crucial. We also spoke about the necessity to rationalize on cost. In fact, I liked what Suresh talked about as force. That's something that I think will catch up and will become a kind of acronym that most organizations will want to follow through. We also did talk about one of the major challenges that organizations face in their supply networks is that we need to ensure that they also stay solvent. To a large extent, our ability to keep our suppliers happy and keep our suppliers motivated to do business with us is also a core issue that as organizations we need to focus on. However, where are the value additions going to come from in the future? If you look at where we are going to unlock opportunities for the organizations where we are in, we looked at a lot of initiatives in terms of how we could ensure external and internal collaboration to capture value. We looked at a close, how do we dovetail our forecasts with our MRP, ERP, MRP system so that we could bring in seamlessness and efficiencies into the whole process. And finally, we also did look at how the role that technology can play. And all of us have a digital wish list. And all of us would like to see a lot more of automation come in. At this stage, what we need is not just automation, but probably smart automation or intelligent automation, which also can, as I think Suresh also and all our panelists did point out, the necessity to create dashboards which are not just, we just don't throw data, but also are able to give you actionable insights. So from dashboards, which gives you a state of what it is, we are now looking towards actionable insights as what is going to drive our decision making and what's going to drive our procurement discussions moving forward. And I hope that in this journey of technology, we also keep learning, we also keep adopting, we also keep seeing the newer technologies coming in. We also see the necessity for larger number of players in the ecosystem to come up. Because while yes, there are large organizations which provide end-to-end enterprise resource solutions, it is the nimbler, smaller players who are at the cutting edge of technology who can quickly come together, innovate, create challenge, create very insightful and very user-friendly solutions, which can be quickly deployed to create the return on investment that organizations today demand. And that's probably where Gaurav and his team would also play a significant role going forward, because they don't have a bureaucracy to wade through, and the decision, the requirements flow seamlessly through straight to the action team, and therefore it becomes faster. Probably that's something that we also need to look at it, and how do I make this process also smoother? I want to thank all of you, Suresh, Jaswant, Ananda, Divya, Somnath, Sivraj, and Gaurav for taking time off and coming and addressing this issue on challenges to CPG supply chain to procurement. I also want to thank Procol and Gaurav for extending their help in creating this roundtable discussion. Thanks, Gaurav. Thanks for your support. And I also want to thank all my audience who have been patiently listening to us. We have also for the information also of the panelists, we did take in most of the questions which came in. The only questions which I did not take in were essentially when people asked, can you share the template that you're using for some cost management? I said, that's not something that I should ask you on a public platform. So those kind of questions I have not asked, but the rest of the questions we did manage to cover in our discussion. So I want to thank your audience for also sending in those questions and actively participating. And finally, not the least, I want to thank Team ISCM Forums for putting this up together and their efforts in getting the speakers and the platform and the audience together. Thank you very much, Team ISCM. Thank you, Gaurav. Thank you, Procol. And I hope to keep in touch with you and continue this dialogue in multiple forums. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Girish.
Thanks.
Thank you, Girish. And
Thank you, Girish. Thanks, Gaurav. Thanks to
everyone.
everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.